6 years. 6 years! Hello, welcome to Star Productions, the dead channel that specializes in being dead. However, I have these things here, and turns out, right now, the premier YouTuber who specializes in these Korean transforming toys, KRBrickBot, is out of the country, which means that I currently might be the only English-speaking person in existence that has these on hand right now. So, I guess I'll talk about them if you are an international person who happens to be curious about what the Tobot franchise is doing right now. So, these are the latest trio of Tobots, which, after 6 years of the original timeline being dead, this is essentially their big revival. So, here we have Tobot X, Tobot Y, and Tobot Z, which are kind of the original three that we haven't seen essentially since that movie in 2017. And then they decided to be terrible and make that one show that, well, people like the designs, but those are not Tobots. Yeah, full disclosure, I'm gonna be dunking on Tobot V a lot. I'm gonna sound like a massive elitist. You're just gonna have to deal with that. I'll try to keep it down, but I've been holding this in for years. Now, the original Tobots started off being Kia cars, though they eventually branched out into other self-developed cars. These, however, are Hyundais, very notable with the Hyundai logo on them. So Tobot X is the Ioniq 5, Tobot Y is the Avante CN7, which has a different name in America, I don't know what that is. And Tobot Z is a Staria. So for Tobot X, he is a specific color palette of the Ioniq 5 called the Gravity Gold Matte, which is more of a silver with a very slight tint of gold, and that's what he looks like in the show, but in the toy, he's kind of this beige-looking color, which I wasn't too on board with when I first saw the pictures, but I've gotten used to it so far. Now, Tobot Y is this very, very lovely-looking blue, which the Avante CN7 uses, maybe not this particular blue, but definitely a blue as a promotional color. Now, for Z Staria, I have not seen any artwork of Astaria being red. However, I believe some of the very initial reveal photos used a red backdrop for a silver Staria, so I guess it kinda worked for all three of them. For a size comparison, here they are next to their adventure models, which, for almost a decade, were the last incarnations of these characters. Remember, main characters of a robot show, no new incarnations for almost a decade. Imagine if that was Optimus Prime or Megatron. Whatever, we have these new models now. And you can really tell these have gotten a lot smaller, and I knew this was going to happen because in the Tobot V line, at some point they actually shrunk down all the toys, so the robot modes were around a head shorter. So when the new Tobot toys were kind of getting leaked, I realized, yeah, these are also going to be smaller, but I didn't realize that they'd be this smaller. It is a lot more noticeable with Tobot Y, mainly because giant helicopter, but it is what it is. It is unfortunate, but I can live with it. And because that size comparison doesn't actually mean anything if you don't own those adventure models, here's a ruler here. So this one's 6 inches. This one's 5.5. And this one is around 6.5 to 7, maybe. So, in kind of the American scale, which, if you are watching Tobot reviews online, a lot of people are using that Transformers scale. These are still pretty big, but remember, this is Korea. We have never heard of the word Hasbro before. We work on the Super Sentai scale for the most part, so these are honestly really small for us. Alright, let's get transforming. For X, you'll want to open the car panels, pull them out until they click, straighten out the legs, flip out the feet, split the legs, pull the top section of the car, which is on a double hinge, turn it around and peg it in, pull out the shoulders, flip out the fists, bring the chest plate down, split the chest, and Tobot X is done. For Y, fold out the tires, pull this entire section back, straighten out the legs, flip out the feet and the heels, split the legs, fold the tires back, bring these car panels inward, then fold the arms out, flip the fists out, turn this entire double jointed piece around, open up this top section, bring the whole chest plate down and close it back up, push this panel for some head leeway, and bring it all together, and Tobot Y is done. For Z, push the tires in, fold out these panels, bring this whole section down and clip it into the waist, fold up this rear bit, flip out the heels, flip out the toes, split the legs, split this entire top section, bring it around town, and these hinges are a little finicky because you'll have to push them forward so you can actually move these parts in, and everything will overlap together as the shoulder pads. Turn the bicep, push up this panel, flip up the head, and Tobot Z is also done. Altogether, these three figures look very nice together. And they definitely scratch that Tobot itch that Tobot V really did not scratch at all. It was like a severe boil in our Tobot needs, if that makes any sense. And they just decided, no, we're not gonna work with that. We just want to make some Brave toys. Which, yeah, that was kind of the problem. Like, even if the toy designs were really cool, they were not Tobots, if you get my gist. And these, they are a little more different than the standard original Tobots, but they are similar enough for me to really say, yeah, these are Tobots, and I do like them. All three of these guys wear the front of their cars, license plates, Hyundai logos and all, with pride. And it kind of made me realize one of the big things that was lacking with the Tobot V line was this somewhat realism. They would always try to make these exotic cars that they wanted to make these super cool alt modes. But Tobot was a line that started with these everyday cars that would kind of be very familiar to Korean children. And now, obviously, not all of the cars were Kias, and they did stray and try some different things for a while, but ultimately a lot of these were grounded in realism, and that applies to the robot designs as well. Obviously, there are exceptions for both the original and Tobot V, but this somewhat very familiar looking design is a very big part of what makes a Tobot, I think. Now, we will get to the heads a little more later because they have a little special thing to them, but these are notably a eye-like mask design, if you get what I'm saying. With the original Tobots, they had this screen face, and that was kind of their identity. And then Tobot V just kind of broke that and decided to be terrible about it, but they kind of came with this compromise, I suppose, where it looks like a screen face, and they have kind of the eyes, which is more of an Athlon thing, but the mask here exists. For Tobot Z, it's very obvious that this is a mask head, but actually for Tobots X and Y, they have it too. It's just not that noticeable because the mask itself is a bit of a gray or a black, but they are there. So I suppose this is kind of the compromise we're going with, and you know what? I'm fine with compromises. Young Toys just kind of refused to compromise with Tobot V for a while there, but this is a sacrifice I'm willing to make to have these Tobots back. Now, that's not to say that these designs are perfect. Tobot X has a giant car shield sticking out of his back. Tobot Y's shoulders are way too low. And then Tobot Z. What the heck is this? My man's built like King Dedede. They really needed to be able to stretch out these legs a little to fix these proportions. My goodness, what is this? Comparing these new models to their adventure incarnations, you can really see it just how small they've gotten. And man, although I really like the adventure models, I really have to say, yeah, these guys really needed a change. Adventure X has a fine toy, but his limbs are way too sprawly to be the power guy. Adventure Z has a very nice design, but his joints get really bad really quickly, so a lot of these are very faulty right now. And then there's Adventure Y. This is just plagiarism. To really give you a sense of how crazily this scale is broken down, here they are with Tobot D, who is the little kid, the little guy. He's supposed to be the short guy, and now he's almost the same size as everyone else. And here's Mini Giga 7, who is supposed to be the mini toy, and he's bigger than these guys. My goodness. Though on the plus side, Tobot C and Tobot R are now decently scaled now. And me being a 2000s kid in Korea, I do not have the Transformers capabilities to do that class size comparison that people always do. So I'm just gonna grab some stuff from my shelf and hope there's something there that you can use for a sense of scale. So here are the new Tobots next to the DX Gekiatsu Daio, the Mini-Plot 2 Kaio, the Artisan Shinobi Maru, SH Figuarts Zen Kaiser, Figurerise Standard Kamen Rider Ghost, 6202 Hero Factory Breakout Raka, Kotobukiya Mega Man EXE, Nendoroid Luluko, a Mario Amiibo, Hello Hero Papercraft Eric, Hello Hero NFC Figures Shaken, this Waddle Dee, and Bravely Default 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Tobot X has a head swivel, shoulder movement, in and out on a double joint, 2 clicks of the elbow, forward and backward leg movement, in and out, double jointed knee, and a slight ankle tilt. Tobot Y has head rotation, shoulder rotation, in and out. The shoulders also move inwards, elbows bend all the way, legs move forward and backward, in and out, a thigh swivel, a double jointed knee, though you'll have to move the tire out of the way to get the full knee, and a little ankle bend. Though not the most articulated things in the world, this does mean that these are the most articulated these two characters have been since their original incarnations, which in turn makes these toys the most articulated Tobot figures of X and Y that are actually worth owning. Again, they're not perfect. X could really use some swivels, and Y's inward shoulder movement makes up for its lack of bicep swivel, but the thigh swivels are actually really loose, and the double jointed knees are a little awkward to work with. And then there's Z. Head rotation, up tilt, arm movement, T-pose level in and out, backwards shoulder movement, bicep swivel, not quite 90-degree elbows, a waist swivel, forward backward in and out legs, a thigh swivel, knee bend, slight toe movements, these weird jet propulsors, and a backwards ab. Are you kidding me? All of this means this is the most articulated Tobot Z has ever been, and this might just be one of the most posable Tobot figures, period. Now you may have noticed a little bit of funky stuff going on with these guys' heads, and that has to do with their main gimmick. So we'll take out the chest plate here, flip down this piece, and we'll take this out here, and we'll push X off to the side. We'll do a similar thing for Y. We'll flip this and pull this up so it doesn't hit the head, and we'll just unpeg this. And for Z, we'll just take it off entirely. From here, we're going to fold out the little arms for all three of these guys. And then we're gonna open this whole thing up, and we'll turn this inner piece around to reveal the alternate face for all three of these. This was kind of crazy when I first saw it. I thought they were just gonna do a kind of a cubic thing where it rotated inside, but I guess this works too. We'll do this for all three of these. And these are the Coreroids. Bit of a crash course on Tobot lore. The Tobots have a very core component called the Mind Core, and that is a little bit of some pseudoscience craziness. That is essentially their mind and soul, essentially a mind core. So it's what makes a Tobot and not just any other machine. It is one of the most fundamental concepts in the Tobot franchise. And then Tobot V was like, hey, you guys like Gao-Gai-Gar? So in the new show, these guys are essentially just little mini robots that have the mind core stored inside them. So when the big robots are under maintenance, these little guys can come out and they can, you know, hang out with the kids. They're pilots, they're little buds, and just kind of hang out with them. And these are adorable. And they have these very little silly screen faces, and they're all different, which is very fun. One thing that's interesting is that these guys, you know, they have the eyes and the mouth of the little emote faces. In the show, the eyes will change expressions, but the mouth is always static. And let me just say, I am glad that we as a society have come to the agreement that no robot named a Tobot should ever have an articulating mouth ever again. For a size comparison, here they are with the Mario Amiibo and the Waddle Dee from before, as well as the kind of human figures from the Tobot franchise, although this is from Athlon. as well as the Athlon Mind Core mini cars, which were kind of the predecessor to these Coreroids. Where in the Athlon show, they also had these little mini cars holding the Mind Cores. So these would eject, and these would be the main component of the robot. So it is pretty much the same idea for these two. Not much to say to these guys in terms of articulation. The head rotation is still there. And the arms are technically ball jointed, but with the way they're set up, all you're really going to get is a swivel. Though Tobot Z, because of the way he transforms, he does have a little leg joint here, but you're not going to get much use out of that. You're mainly just going to have these guys as a fun little alternate. So yeah, these guys are very cool, and hey, I got them for pretty cheap too. They were around 42,000 won at retail, and then for the pre-order promotional event, you got around 5,000 won off. And then I could use my own Gmarket coupons to get another 3,000 to 5,000 off. So these are pretty darn cheap, around like 35,000 won for each, which is pretty darn good. Oh yeah, there was other stuff too. Okay, am I actually complaining that I got 3 additional robots for free? No. These are good-looking robots. They have very nice transformations. I just hate the Super 10 brand in general. Quick recap of what was going on there. Tobot, Biclons, and Athlon were the trio of shows that got cancelled by Young Toys that were developed by Retrobot, and people were mad, including me. And now we have Tobot back, and Athlon shares the continuity with Tobot, so at least the universe is the same. Biclons are still in purgatory, and they took those Biclon toys, and they recycled the toys to make Metallions, and now these Super 10 guys are a sequel to Metallions. Bruh! So these 3 were essentially the pre-order bonuses for the new Tobots. So if you bought Tobot X, you'd get Rector, or in Korean Ninja Raptor. If you bought Tobot Y, you'd get Kongor, which is the same in both languages. And if you bought Tobot Z, you'd get Whitehorn, or Duke Knight?
I have the key! I have in pain!
On the plus side, this does mean that these didn't sell well, so Young Toys was fine with just giving them away. So maybe they'll scrap this and go back to Biclons, that'd be nice. Now at first I considered selling these, but then I realized, oh right, there were 3 different promotions at 3 separate stores, all saying the first 100 people who buy X, Y, and Z get these, and everyone's gonna be trying to sell these. So I guess I'm kinda stuck with these, huh?
Now after fiddling around with these guys for a while, I can definitely say I really do like them. They've got some fun bits of engineering to them, especially Kongor here, who has this screw hole hiding technique. But I don't want to go into much detail on this because ultimately this is not a Super 10 review, this is a Tobot review. And if you buy the new Tobots, you are most likely not going to be getting these as a bonus. I just felt that it would be important to fully disclose what I was getting at what price, so that you can see where I'm coming from when I form my opinions about my enjoyment. If you are interested in these figures, there is a video by Bolt Matrix that covers these 3, as well as a 4th figure.
One thing I did want to mention though is that, man, there is something undeniably cheap about these guys. This gold plastic is kind of just like this cheap gold plastic that it's the kind I haven't really seen since bootleg Lego toys that we'd buy as kids. Which, it's fine, it looks alright, but what doesn't look as good is the white plastic, which, especially compared to like the actual Tobot's plastic here, it looks way worse. In fact, here's my Mini Plus Zenroku Eagle, and these have a very similar plastic to them. This is a cheap candy toy. This is meant to be cheap, so, but what the heck is going on with this guy? Also for Whitehorn specifically, I'm not sure if you can really see it, but this lance came bent in the box. So I don't know if that's a quality control issue or... Now, there is one reason why I'm very glad I have these now, and that is the beast modes, because these are just about the perfect size to mount some figures. And I do not have a very big collection of these very articulated figures. More specifically, I mostly started recently besides these 2, but they work pretty well, though these are a little wide because they're not supposed to fit these, so you're gonna need a good thigh swivel and some good knee bends. And you can see for the Black Raptor specifically, the space between the arms and legs are not big enough, so this is a little awkward. A lot better for the Green Raptor. For the Gorilla, I thought you might not be able to put anything on, but this waist bit is essentially just about the same size for all three of them. You are going to have to remove these, or at least get them out of the way to get something on there. But once you have him tightly in, you can pretty much have him exactly how you want him to, with the exact same setup. And for this guy specifically, Mega Man EXC is perfect for this. The yellow and blue, or in these two, work perfectly together. And for the Pegasus, you are going to want to remove the wings, but if you do it a little properly, you can keep the wings on here, so you just have to be careful of how you position the figure, but in general, it should be fine. And just like the Gorilla and Mega Man, Zenkaiser's gold and white works pretty well with this guy too. Though for Zenkaiser specifically, you can also just take this and put him in the cape form and put it over his shoulders, and that looks pretty cool too. So these two have found their partners in my collection. I haven't figured out the Raptor brothers yet. These two are not really fitting for the colors, and this guy has his own mount. So I don't actually have anything that fits these guys' color schemes. Let's just say I'm trying to fix two problems in one go, if you get what I'm saying. Now, one other thing I did want to mention is that each of these figures has this bicycle chain design on each of them, though for these two it's not painted, but you can see that they are there, and this is the exact same thing as what was in the Biclons figures. Now, you might be tempted to say, oh, well, that means they haven't forgotten Biclons yet. I'm a little more skeptical on that, especially during this particular era of Young Toys. I hesitate to believe that they would be willing to even acknowledge that Biclons happened at all. My pessimistic outlook on this is that they wanted to connect this to Metallion specifically, which... But overall, this has been an absolutely fantastic haul. All of this for about 100,000 won, aka less than $100. And I'm very happy that the main stars of the show came out as well as they did. Obviously, even if they were terrible, I still would have bought them and I still would have loved them because it's Tobot, man. But they're really good. And these figures should soon be stocked in shelves in Korea. So hopefully these things sell really well, and we can continue to have more Tobots like this. And in general, I'm just happy they're back.
Don't you ever leave again.